Later available at the reception. I do apologise, my voice is going, that's why I brought my water with me. Bad cold, I'm just trying to get over it. I think I know many of you, or many of you know me, but I wanted to briefly introduce who we are. Sunbury Heights is a company of international project managers and cost controllers. That's what we do. That's all we do. We don't do project management as an add-on to doing something else. We don't, as many other companies do. We're not real estate agents. We don't try and sell furniture or paint your walls or shine your shoes. All we do is what it says on the tin, which is construction project management. We've been here for over 15 years. In fact, our business started here. It started in Moscow. It grew from Moscow to a number of other locations now, London and Dubai and Kiev, but it started here. And it was started by me. I've been resident in Moscow for 24 years. 24 years. I know I don't look that old, it's true. I look far younger than that, it's true. But I've been resident here for 24 years, which is take my word for it, the majority of my adult life. And in that time, I've learned some lessons. It's very difficult not to learn lessons in 24 years. But I've learned some lessons, and people generally ask me, when they find that I'm an Englishman, and I'm from Manchester, and I've lived in Moscow for 24 years, what are the lessons I've learned? Why am I here, and what are the lessons particularly that I've drawn from all of the years here? And I want to share some with you exclusively. There's no charge for this, you can write them down. These are the lessons I've learned in the last 20 years. Number one, it's not possible to win the Australian lottery without first buying a ticket, no matter what the email says. It's just a matter of fact. As I say, there's no charge for this advice. Second thing I've learned is the third ring is a terrible route to take any time of day. I assume these are not being translated to you in the way that I'm intending them. And the third thing I've learned, although I think everybody should have learned this now, is that design and build appointments are a bad idea. Let me explain a little bit why, then, they're a bad idea, as that's the main subject of my presentation. I shouldn't actually need to explain, because I've given this presentation, more or less this presentation, probably a dozen times to different bodies. I think I've given it to the American Chamber of Commerce, the Association of European Businesses, I've given it to commercial real estate events, and a whole variety of other things. And other people have given the same presentation, bizarrely. You know, project managers, architects. I remember last year at this event, indeed, there was a very good presentation given by Dmitry Zavodov from UNK Project on exactly this subject. He had a lot of detail about why design and build is worse as a strategy than design, bid build. And I have to say, in advance, his presentation was far better than mine. So if you've got a copy of that, then read it through and pretend I'm him. Because that included a lot of detail, and it was very useful. As I say, my contention is that design and build is a bad idea, and I'll explain to you why. And I'll explain to you why I think most, if not all, project managers would make the same argument. I say if not all, because I think Moscow is probably the city with the largest contingent of unqualified project managers in Europe. But I'd say most qualified project managers would agree with me that it's a bad idea. Why? Well, let's look at the difference between design and build, appointing a contractor on a design and build contract, and going through the process of designing an office, for instance, then taking that design and going out to market. So we'll roughly, for shorthand purposes, call design bid build. Well, a design and build contractor, by definition, handles both aspects of the project in-house, using permanently employed resources. That's, I think, a truism. Most of you will know this. There are companies, some of them represented here, that claim to be design and build companies. I challenge whether they really are design and build companies, but they claim to be. So that is what a design and build company is. And there are many companies in Europe that do design and build jobs. Design bid build, as I say, involves the appointment of an architect or a design team, and then presupposes a tendering of construction works when the design process is complete. Now I want to drill down on this last phrase, when the design process is complete, because I do not take to be a design and build job a case when the general contractor is responsible just for the working design. I do not take that to be a design and build job. I take that to be design, bid, build in the same way. A design build job I take to be when the general contractor has got overall responsibility from the design, from at least scheme design stage. He may not be responsible for the concept, but from scheme design or detailed design stage, the general contractor is responsible. It's not just him doing the working design. As many of you may be aware, in Moscow it's very, very common for the general contractor to do the working design. It doesn't mean that they're doing design and build. So why do people make a decision to employ a design and build contractor despite what seems to me, pardon me, the wealth of evidence which shows that it's just a bad idea, and I'll explain to you in a second why it's a bad idea with some numbers. Well, they do it because they think it saves time. Employing a design and build contractor, they think involves removing from the whole process an additional stage of procurement. With design, bid, build, of course, you go out to tender for a design team, maybe an architect, maybe an engineer, a design engineer. Maybe that design engineer reports to the architect, but nonetheless, it's one stage of procurement. After that, you go out to tender to a contractor with the developed design. So you're going out to a minimum of 2 tenders. People go to the design and build route because they think that it's quicker. Just one tender, it's easier. They also believe that it will save on the task of coordination between the design team and the contractor. Of course, if the design team and contractor are one and the same, coordination is not necessarily a problem at all. They coordinate internally, in theory. And of course, some people go to design and build route because it's easier to manage in-house if you don't have a project manager. You just have one so-called vendor, one design build contractor to manage. However, I don't think any of these actually turn out to be the case. It's sad, but during the crisis period, and this was the case, and I think I referred to this very briefly last year when I spoke on the same stage. During the crisis, people were more likely to go the design and build route because they felt times were tough, they couldn't spend money on a name architect or an architect at all, therefore would go to a contractor that would have some designers in-house and they would do all the design work there, therefore they were going to save money. In my belief, that virtually never happened, or if it did happen, I've never heard of it, where they've actually saved money doing it that way. In fact, a design and build solution removes any cost certainty at all from the project, simply because by the time you're going out to tender for a design and build contractor, he's bidding on the design and the construction at the same time before the design has been done. How do you bid on construction before it's been designed? You don't know. They don't know exactly what you want. They don't know whether you want mahogany walls or double glazed panels or gold signage at your reception or a Italian marble. They don't really understand this. All they've got is the very briefest of briefings from you, from a client, for which to bid. And therefore they bid either inaccurately or they bid high to reduce their own risk. And they will certainly refuse to sign a fixed price contract on the basis of all the uncertainty. So basically it removes any cost certainty from the project. On average also, and I'll show this in a second, it increases the cost of the completed project quite substantially. It really does increase the cost quite substantially, and I'll touch about that in a second. And it also proves a danger to schedule completion, simply because there are so many questions. A design build contractor, because he's winning the job on the very reason that he can speed up, he often makes promises that he can't keep. And when the specification and the design is being developed, there are things he finds out from the client about what the client actually wants, and they inevitably affect the time scale. I wanted really to put this to bed. I wanted really to put this subject to bed, so I'm never asked ever again to speak on the subject, because I think it really is a dead subject, and I'm amazed that the construction professionals still think this is an issue. I always think being invited to speak on this subject is like inviting a doctor to speak on whether, on balance, smoking may be a good idea. You know, clearly it's not. This is and I'll put some disclaimers on ahead of time. This is a 5-year cost summary of variations on construction projects, not just in Moscow and not just with our company. The numbers vary widely in terms of the cohort that we took to develop this graph. The last 2 years, 2009 2010, have probably half the projects that the first 3 years have on this graph. I apologise, therefore, for the approximate nature of the data that went into it, and I wouldn't even present it at all were it not so glaring. Did it not show a trend so vividly? The red line covers the cost variation for design and build projects. The blue line covers the cost variation for design, bid, build projects. The first 3 years, 2006, 2007, 2008, have a cohort of approximately 120 projects each. 2009, 2010 have between 40 and 60 each. They're in more than one location. This is not just in Moscow, but as a trend, I think it speaks for itself. 2006, it shows an average cost variation from the original bid of a design-build contract from 110 to 160%. 2007 from 100% to 155%. 2008 from 110% to 150%. 2009, 110% to 142%. 2010 from something like 109% to 140%. That's 140% of the original bid price. So if you were doing a fit out and that bid, and the design build contractor bid $1 million, then you'd be looking at spending 2006 up to 1.6 million. That's a nasty shock to get. Or if you look at the best figures there, the lowest figures in the lowest year, probably just over 100%. In any case, you'd virtually in every case end up spending more than you would if you got a construction bid with a developed design. I don't think there's anything more really that I can say on that other than this design and build is a wonderful thing. Design and build is a wonderful thing for contractors. It's not a wonderful thing for clients. It's not a wonderful thing as a project manager to advise your client. It's not a wonderful thing per se. Let's speak about the process of tendering. But before I do, a friend told me a story the other day about his daughter. His daughter is I think 4.5, and she's going to kindergarten in Moscow, one of the foreign kindergartens in Moscow. And the other day he met the teacher, and the teacher told him this story, and he said, the teacher said that the other day his daughter was drawing a picture furiously at kindergarten, and she was drawing, and she was keeping her hand over the picture. She wouldn't show anybody what she was drawing, and she was clearly really getting into drawing this picture. And the teacher came over to her and said, "Oh, Sophie, what are you drawing there? You seem to be really enjoying yourself." And the little girl said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "That's nice, Sophie, but Sophie, nobody knows what God looks like." And she said, "Well, they will in a minute. They will in a minute." Appointing a designer build contractor, the reason I tell you this story, it's a tenuous link. Appointing a designer build contractor is like drawing a picture of God. You have no idea what you're going to get, you have no idea if it's going to be accurate. Let's go through the detail of tenders. How tenders operate, the sort of information project managers send out when they go to tender. For a normal project, a design bid build project, so I want to illustrate what the differences are during the procurement process. We normally send out, of course, the formal letter of invitation to the contractors. Many contractors that are represented here today will have received packages like this from ourselves over the last 15 years on a weekly or fortnightly basis. So it's a formal letter of invitation describing the project and listing any required commercial terms, letters of guarantee, advance payments, retention, insurances, these sorts of things. A form of response template, that's basically a form which we develop, which allows them just to fill in boxes. So we say, okay, partitions, glazed partitions of this size, fill in this box. It makes our life easier, because that means we get a whole series of responses, exactly in the same format, and we just compare line items with line items. Very, very easy to do. We specify the materials, or the architects specify the materials, we put them in the line items, and people price them accordingly. Makes our cost controller's job really, really easy. Otherwise, you just get amorphous bins that you can't understand what's included in each line item, etc. Then we typically send a non-disclosure agreement, but also we send a full set of detailed design plans. And these detailed design plans are all the architectural designs and all the engineering designs. They include elevations and sections. They include specifications of materials and quantities of them. They include a great deal of detail about what this project is, what the client wants. Many of the offices, the Best Office Awards, many of the offices have been designed by qualified architects, architects that are leaders in their field, architects that have gone through this stage of producing these packages and having them sent out by people like us for tender. And then, of course, we send out any landlord requirements, any building restrictions or anything else. And on the basis of their responses, the contractor responses, we assess their responses on the basis of two lots of criteria, soft criteria and hard criteria. Soft criteria, are they able to do the job? Are they going to be around financially at the end of the project? Do they have enough money to be able to deliver the commercial terms that they're offering? Are they enthusiastic about the project? Are they going to dump you as soon as they win a bigger project? You know who you are. And the hard criteria, and those are the numbers, the number crunching, the resources as well, detailed, actual named resources, willingness to meet the commercial terms, the program unit prices, all these sorts of things, material suggestions, profits, preliminaries, etc. So that's what we do, and generally we tie people to a type of contract that's well known virtually the world over. It's called a FIDIC contract, a FIDIC construction contract, and typically the one that we are known for enforcing, I don't know about other project managers, but we are known for enforcing is a particular mode of FIDIC contract called a FIDIC fixed price contract. It means that we say to the contractor, listen, you're bidding on this job and we're giving you all this information. Anything you don't know, that's your risk. If you subsequently find out something that you didn't know, that's your problem. You take the hit. You sign on to a fixed price, it's a fixed price. We're not going to accept any claims. That just makes our life difficult. We like an easy life. So that's what we do. Now, imagine doing the same with a design and build contract. What are you sending to the contractor? Well, you can send the first three things, of course. But then you can't send any detailed design. And I'll tell you what's normally sent to a design build contractor. What's normally sent is photos of the client's offices in other countries to get an idea of the sort of thing they'd like. Let's get an idea of the sort of thing they'd like. That's like me buying a suit, but not going in to see the tailor, just sending him a photograph of the suit I'd worn in the past. Yeah, I like that sort of stuff. And expecting that suit to come ideally fit for me. Of course, it's not going to work. So basically, it's imprecise, inaccurate, and unadvisable. To wind up, can these risks be mitigated? Can you employ a design and build contractor and take away the risk that I've spoken about? Well, yes, you can by two things. Firstly, by delivering them an advanced design. Of course, the sharper among you are going to realise that means it's not a design and build contractor, but there we are. That's a way of mitigating the risk, changing it from a design and build contractor. And of course, by managing them very closely during the construction process to reduce the risk of claims, although that's very, very difficult when you've not given them a design to begin with. That is about all I've got to say, which is, to be honest, probably as much as my voice is going to hold out. I know you've got some wonderful speakers laid on for you later on, but that's goodbye from me. Thank you very much.